You're listening to the Valley Current.
Hey, Len, welcome into the Valley Current. Well, Happy New Year. It's been a whole year that's come into fruition here.
Well, it seems more like a decade.
I can see your keyboard now. That's interesting. There you go. You got a camera and you got a keyboard and you're set.
How are you?
I'm good. You look like you're the picture of health there.
I hope the picture is accurate.
The picture of accurate health. I have to say that no one could have believed what's played out here, and it looks like it might get a lot worse before it gets better in the next week or so in Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe it. I mean,
unbelievable.
And now it looks like he's lost most of the Republican Party. They've taken a long time. Mitch McConnell came out today saying, yes, impeachment is appropriate. I'm sure.
Did he directly come out and say that?
Yeah, according to the newspaper, according to the news flash from the New York Times. I don't know whether there's some nuance to that.
Well, there must be a God.
I mean, I think it's something you predicted a long time ago. And
what's so disturbing is 4 years ago, it was clear to me, and I'm sure many, many other people, and even prior to that, when people were talking about the Donald and his personality became expressed during the birther problem, that this man was mentally ill. And I've maintained that ever since. But the problem is that even though I'm not a trained psychiatrist, I still am amazed that so few people reach the same conclusion at that time. And it's only gotten worse. It's just, well, I was going to say you can't understand it, but I can understand it when close to 50% of the population of this country are just plain stupid. I mean, 40% believe in astrology.
Oh yeah, it's a growing field.
About the same percentage believe in palm reading.
Oh, it's a big deal, and there's going to be a big release of information next week about UFOs. We're going to hear a lot of stuff about UFOs. Yes, someone put in a Freedom of Information Act request to the FBI, and it was finally granted. So we're going to see some really interesting stuff. I don't know how scientific it'll be, but there's going to be some really super interesting stuff. But yes, I think people right now are trying to figure out how to make sense of such a complicated world with so many different balls in the air and so many different things all happening at the same time. It's almost like the description is we're moving into some new era, and it's hard to figure out if we're really evolving or we're sort of regressing, right?
Well, I take issue with that. What has changed is the recognition of the millions of stupid people who have no training at all in what it means to prove something or to recognize a fact. There's just no way of correcting stupidity. You just have to hope that it can be overcome by people who have brains. It's just Trump and his enablers and supporters have simply brought out into the open what has been largely concealed over the decades or maybe centuries. But I've been in communication with people and with close friends in Germany, and it is so revealing in respect to the behavior of human beings, apparently, and I'm sure all over the world, but Germany is a good example. And all of them agree that what's happening in the United States is what they've experienced during the rise of Hitler.
Right.
Of course, I've made the point many times, and I'm not alone in having made this point.
Right.
But even to the extent of what happened last week, which is identical to the burning down of the Reichstag.
Right.
That is an identical event in the rise of Hitler, and the burning down of our capital is identical to the rise of the Trump dictatorship. But hopefully what's happened in the past couple of days and what you just described, I had some hint of it, but not as positive as you seem to think it is occurring in respect to McConnell, who is one of the enablers of this potential dictator, that maybe finally people in power are beginning to recognize what they should be doing.
Well, I think McConnell read the tea leaves of the survey data across the nation and said he's not going to be able to sustain any support and that he's better off cutting ties. But there still are about 150 Congress people, maybe even some senators, that are still supportive of Trump. So how this next couple of weeks goes is anyone's guess, or the next 10 days, I guess, or next 9 days.
On the correct side, those Republican legislators are truly representative of a portion of the American people, and so there's no reason to get rid of them. I mean, that's one way of looking at this, that you have to have those people before your eyes all of the time to try to understand why they believe in what they believe or don't believe in what they don't believe. It's an important constituent of our representatives because they truly represent a proportion of our population that needs representation.
Right.
And hopefully the recognition that that group of people are dangerous.
Well, it's the likely splintering of the Republican Party into a third party. Yeah, the true Republican Party.
Today, who's a Republican? I don't know who's a Republican. I don't think they know themselves. If they identify with that alleged party, there'll probably be three parties, and Trump will be a minor party.
Right.
That is, if he escapes the decision that or the law, I assume, that he will not be allowed to be a part of the government any other time in his life.
Right. That's, I think, what the impeachment would accomplish, but I don't know how they pull it off in 9 days. I mean, it seems like it's...
Well, it's certainly possible because you don't need any evidence. What constituted the former attempt was that a lot of evidence needed to be argued. That took days and days and days. The difference this time is that the evidence is already known, and anybody with 2 eyes and 2 ears, and hopefully more than 2 neurons, can see the evidence and hear the evidence. Even though Trump himself denies that he said anything wrong or did anything wrong, and there are other people who believe the same thing, there are too few of them now. And we know this because of the many Republicans who are accepting the fact that what he did and what he enabled was an atrocity, that it should go very speedily, because all you have to do, you don't even have to look at the evidence anymore. We've all seen it in the past and have recognized it to be true. You can't fake the occupation of the Capitol. It's all there for us to see. And you can't fake his promotion of the attack on the Capitol because we've heard what he said. That can't be denied, and he's not denying what he said. He may be denying what he meant, but he surely can't deny what he said. So that should go very quickly, and that's been pointed out, by the way, by some of the Democrats.
Well, it seems like you'd have to have some cooperative process towards something that looks like due process, because you can't just say, let's just run the videotape and take a vote. You have somebody present the counter argument under the First Amendment, albeit a weak counter argument, but there'd
Well,
have to be
that will
some
happen.
semblance, right?
That
Some
will
semblance of due process, right?
Yes, that will happen if it goes to the Senate because he will be given an opportunity to challenge the facts. That's part of the system. And furthermore, even if it doesn't occur during this session of Congress, it will hopefully still occur during the next session.
Really? I've never heard of that impeachment occurring after it's moot.
Well, there's apparently no law or present law that forbids it.
So
And furthermore,
retroactive, we would have fired you and got rid of you, but for the fact that you've left by your own volition as part of the exit and exchange of power. I mean, I think the other problem that no one is thinking about is if there's another angry mob descending on Washington, D.C., they're not going to want to assemble to hold an impeachment trial because they're going to say it's too risky, right? I mean, that's the odd thing here.
I think even if all these efforts fail, what will not fail are the many lawsuits that are going to be pressed against him when he leaves office.
Uh-huh.
That's their salvation. If he doesn't end up in an orange jumpsuit within 18 months, then there's something wrong with our legal system.
Well, the pardon power is pretty broad federally.
Well, that's the other thing. That hasn't happened yet.
Right. And he's alienated his vice president, and his vice president thinks, probably very similarly to the content of what we're discussing, that, hey, this guy is out to lunch and wants me to do things that I can't possibly do.
Tune in next time on The Valley Current.